Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. Now, I know that when we're talking about fall cleanup, and prep for spring, one of the most important areas to clean up is the vegetable garden.
By all means, Mark. And many gardeners are far more experienced than I, to the extent that I don't know anything. I ask my clients who are gardeners. But there is the business of disease and insect carryover, one of the biggies. Diseases are, quite frankly, usually born in the air, but not always, and they can come back from way outside the garden. However, if you have raked up, cleaned up, cut the dead stems to the ground and so on, you're taking away the spores for the fungal diseases and some others. You're probably also taking away the eggs of some of the insects that overwinter inside old stem tissue, just waiting for your crop to get started again next year and so on. And then the other thing is, I like to turn the soil in the fall. Now, I know farmers are advised not to do that because of wind loss for drying soil that's been turned up, and there's all kinds of thoughts. But I'm thinking now the home garden, 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 or whatever, where you can, let's just say, avoid some of that. Turn under, rototill if you wish, double spade, whatever it takes to get the green tissue turned under, the old leaves turned under that you're raking up from this fall. Let them start to decay and so to speak, compost. They will be burying, or you will be burying, the diseases, insects, and eggs and so on the garden residuals, as well as some of the new leaves. The soil then is, let's just say, ready to plant in much quicker than if you wait until spring and try to turn it and use it, so to speak, at the same time. Because as well, right now, happily, we have enough rain, at least in most of the state, to keep things in good shape going into winter. But in the spring, it rains and rains and rains, and you just go nuts trying to get it time when it's dried down for 3 days so you can work the soil. So you try to get that done now, just as a convenience to yourself, as well as burying some disease and insect problems.
Now, especially, I know if people have issues with their tomatoes, it's a really good time for the cleanup, and that's really important.
Well, Mark, I have to say yes. Tomatoes have their own foibles, and I don't know as we can always avoid them. But yes, I like to, cut many things off and turn them under when I can. And I usually have. I don't have very many tomatoes to work with, but I grab them by the hair of the head and pull them right out of the ground, get the roots and all out of there. I also add some calcium to the soil. It's one of the things that helps this blossom end rot situation, and it just gets the garden ready to work with. We have more disease carryover in tomatoes than we do insect. The disease factors, and I'm going to jump ahead and kind of off target here, but there are things to watch for on a label for tomatoes and other plants. Many times you'll find tomatoes grown by a grower that has a tag in the flat or in the individual carton that says VFN tested or something like that. The V is virus, the F is fusarium wilt, and the N is nematodes. These are seedlings that do not bring you a problem with themselves coming right into your garden. And then if you can change, and this is a biggie, although I violate it because of garden space, do put your tomatoes in a different spot each year so that the direct contact of new, brand clean roots from the VFN testing, but if you put them back into infected soil, they can pick it up and go again. So it's one of those things. Sometimes the more you pay for a seedling, the better the plant's going to be.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Howard and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com.